Welcome back to Previously Prohibited. I think we're on episode 13. I'm
Yes.
Jenin Eunice here with my co-host Melissa Whitty. And today we're going to start by talking about President Trump and Colombia. There's been quite a situation there. I believe what happened was he sent some illegal immigrants back to Colombia, and Colombia has refused to take them in, and President Trump has threatened tariffs in retaliation. So I'll hand it to Melissa to give a little more on that.
Yeah, it's really weird. So according to Marco Rubio, these two flights were actually coordinated and approved by the president of Colombia, President Petro, I believe his name is, and they were coordinated, arranged, everything was ready to go, but apparently, and I haven't confirmed this, but someone said that the Colombians got upset because the migrants were being sent back on military planes, not on commercial airliners. Apparently, Biden was returning them on, because we've done a bunch of these flights, apparently almost 100 of them in the last 4 years, and they were always commercial flights. So they felt like they were being returned as criminals, and they didn't like it. So they told them they couldn't land, and then told them, it made them come back to the States. The two planes. Trump then threatens the president threatens Colombia with 25% tariffs that would be increased to 50% tariffs by the end of the week. And he also said that they would cancel all of the diplomatic visas of Colombians in the U.S. Yeah. And so the president of Colombia immediately responded and said, I'll send my own private plane to pick these people up. Like, that was like 10 minutes after, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing he must have gotten a lot of flack for that, because it seemed like he folded pretty quick. So then he puts out this insane, screed. He sounds like a 15-year-old on Tumblr, is what somebody said. And it really did. It was so nuts. Just this long thing. And a lot of people are in my mentions, talking about, it's very symbolic. I'm like, what? It's not the place. It's like a Twitter cry, it's like an ode to whatever. I don't even know. I'll read you guys some of it. This is just a part of it, okay? Trump, I don't really like traveling to the US. It's a bit boring, but I confess that there are some commendable things. I like going to the black neighborhoods of Washington, where I saw an entire fight in the US Capitol between blacks and Latinos with barricades, which seemed like nonsense to me because they should join together. I confess that I like Walt Whitman and Paul Simon and Noam Chomsky and Miller. He then goes on. I mean, it's long. It's really, really long.
That sounds like he was drunk or something.
Well, yeah. Oh, hold on. So this is my favorite part. You will kill me, but I will survive in my people, which is before yours in the Americas. We are peoples of the wind, the mountains, the Caribbean Sea, and of freedom. You don't like our freedom, okay? I don't shake hands with white slavers. I shake hands with the white libertarian heirs of Lincoln and the black and white farm boys of the USA, at whose graves I cried and prayed on a battlefield, which I reached after walking the mountains of Italian Tuscany after being saved from COVID.
He worked a lot into that, so many different topics in one.
It was so much. I was like, what is, someone take the whiskey and his phone away, immediately, right now. Okay.
Yep.
And so then he does that, and it's weird. And then he's like, fine, we're imposing a 50% tariff on all American imports. It's like, okay. So then Trump comes back and says, we have canceled processing all visas at the U.S. Embassy.
Wow.
And so it's just escalating super, super quick. Oh, so then he comes back, President Petro comes back and says that there are 15,000 illegal Americans living in Colombia. But then he says something, and this really irked me. He says, basically he threatens to increase the illegal activities at the Darien Gap, which is the spot in between South America and Central America, and this is where all of the immigrants have to cross through. And it's been a point of contention for a long time because of just the lawlessness that operates there. So it was kind of a real big. It was a threat, essentially, that he was going to team up with the Venezuelans and flood the U.S. with migrants, which is just not good. It's not good for anybody, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know where it's going, but I feel like I don't know. It's everybody's testing. These to me these Central and South American countries are really used to Biden, and they have dumped a lot of people on us in the last
well, speaking
4
of Biden,
years.
I was gonna say Hunter's gonna be pretty upset because I think the price of cocaine is gonna go up.
Yeah, right.
Significantly.
Should go through the roof, right? I know. Or he's going to flood our country with cocaine, and then of course Hunter will be ecstatic. Well, as will probably some of the other president's children who we won't mention. But it is what it is, but it's just not good. It's going to be a trade war. Nobody wants a trade war. I don't know. There are some like Colombian fanboys that I feel like are really kind of like, no offense, it's the U.S. versus. I mean, we have it's almost an even trade. We don't even. I think we have I think maybe they might have a $1 billion deficit or whatnot, but they're significantly more dependent on the U.S. than the U.S. is dependent on them.
Sure.
And I don't want to see economies get crushed on either side.
No. Yeah. So how do you view this in light of like Trump's overall foreign policy? How do you think it fits into his?
Well, I mean, he's been really clear about He's been really clear about these deportations. Right now, it's the problem is that right now it's mostly criminals, right? And they really do have a policy of worst out first, right?
Yeah.
And I think what actually is happening is that you are probably seeing a lot of these countries maybe scramble a little bit because they are about to get flooded with possibly thousands of criminals, hardened criminals, a lot of them, and they don't know what to do with them. They probably don't have the prison capacity for them, don't have the social resources for them, and so what can they do? I would say be humble and ask for help. That. It is what it is, and you're going to have to look at kind of the way that you structure. We see in El Salvador that it can be done, and I know that a lot of people don't like Bukele's tactics, but they do work. And he has taken his country from being the murder capital of the world to one of the safest countries in the Western Hemisphere, and that is commendable. His people adore him for that.
He did throw all civil rights out the window,
yeah.
from what I understand, which is, a bit of a problem. But also, if you live in the murder capital of the world, I don't know. So.
Right. It's unfortunate. It is a really hard place because you just hear these horror stories. I remember reading these stories about these kids. Like, kids could never play outside. Like, they were just so ecstatic. Like, people could, because once their children, especially their boys, got to a certain age, they were either immediately indoctrinated. You had to join the gangs, or the girls, they would, it just get raped, get kidnapped, get sold into prostitution. So children were just kept inside all of the time. Yeah. For like over a decade, essentially, as these gangs just ruled everything. And and I'm sorry, but if at the end of the day, I'm just always going to side with the people, with regular working class people. And if I don't know, it's hard. It is a hard thing. But
I know. These are tough issues for me because it's like, of course, I want regular people to be able to live in peace and send their kids outside and whatnot. But of course, it's also disastrous when you take away everyone's civil liberties. Mm-hmm. I have to admit, I don't know enough details on the subject to opine with any kind of specificity. But my understanding was there was a crackdown on really everyone's rights. And I don't know what you do in such a situation.
I think what they did was they just cast a really wide net. They just kind of did a drag net, and they pulled everyone up into it. And then I think what they were in the process of doing after about 2 years, I think it took, was weeding through one by one. So they built these huge prisons, and then they just assessed. It was basically arrest everybody now, we'll sort them out later. And they did eventually, from what I understand, they did let a lot of people go, but that's, I don't know how much of that is propaganda or whatnot. But I
Yeah.
do know that they don't have the gang problem anymore, that they don't have murder issues like at all. They went from something
Yeah.
like, I want to say like 110 murders per 100,000, which is just like crazy. Like the US is like 5.6 murder rate, and then
Yeah.
down to, I think it's like three.
Wow.
3 per 100,000,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. I'm kind of not necessarily an ends justify the means person.
Yeah. I know
So I'm mixed on that one.
Yeah.
If there's a way to do it without throwing everyone in prison, I think I'd prefer that.
Right. I think that there is when you're wealthy,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I also think that another problem is you just have a lot of corruption. And
Yeah.
so that kind of weighs it all down too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do know that people end up eventually just losing all patience, right? And so you end up with some kind of dictatorship one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whether it's the gangs running the streets, or whether it's some kind of ruler elected by the people or whatnot. There's tyranny one way or another. I guess it's just who
Yeah.
benefits from it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair point because,
Yeah.
we're not used to living in a society where the
Right.
gangs are like
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we did, I think that you would see a similar result. I just think that people only have patience for that for so long, and especially you think if the gangs are running the streets anyways, people are already used to some form of tyranny, so
That's true.
it's easy for them to embrace.
That's true. That's true. That's a fair point. So
that's Colombia,
what
right?
else? What else do we have going on in
I know
geopolitics?
we have Mexico. They did the same thing. They sent the migrant. Everybody's testing Trump right now. I think there's a lot of rhetoric. It's interesting to see though the American people's reaction, right? Because in 2017 there was a lot of the same deportation rhetoric and whatnot, and people were freaking out, and it was a huge deal, and there was so much massive pushback in the US domestically against this. And I just feel like you don't see that the same. And there was a video going around of a woman. She was, I think, from Guatemala. She had an appointment on the app. A lot of people were kind of like making fun of it and whatnot. And I just like don't really revel in people's misery ever. I don't get any pleasure out of it. Right. Every now and then there's somebody.
One of them has the initials BN.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody like that, I was actually thinking the BW, but
that one too.
But yeah, so I don't know, that one kind of, it did hurt my heart. Like I don't want to see this woman. I feel bad for her. She's coming here, she's got kids, she wants a better life for herself. I get it, but at the same time, like we just simply can't do that for everyone. We just can't. Especially for me, I'm like, it's frustrating for me when I hear like people don't speak English at all, like none whatsoever, because it's such a burden on the system for everyone, for the schools, for everything. I feel like you should really do your best to put that effort in and learn and whatnot. So I saw that going around. I didn't particularly care for it at all. But what you just see in the American system is that the American people are fed up. I don't know if you saw this out of Texas. There was this there was this teacher I just saw. He was like tagging ICE in Facebook posts, asking them to come to his school because there were so many students that didn't speak any English. I was like, wow. Like
that's tough.
Yeah.
I'm like very I think I said this on the last episode or two ago. I'm really torn on this subject just because I feel like the US is responsible for so much misery in South America, Middle East, Central America, that like it's partially, not entirely, I'm not saying it's entirely, but partially our policies that have driven people to want to come here. And so if we just got out of there and got out of the Middle East and got out of all these countries, I would feel way better about being like, we're going to be really strict on immigration.
Right.
But I'm kind of like, well, we're doing this to people and then they want to come here. So
Oh, definitely, definitely. We a lot of our actions destabilize the regions. We make the economic situations more difficult. Of course, I always advocate against all of that stuff. So I don't necessarily
Yeah.
feel that bad, like sticking to an America first policy,
Yeah.
whatnot. Um,
No,
you know,
you're
I
not a hypocrite,
yeah,
but the thing is, given that we're doing it, I kind of have a
right,
hard
right.
time being like there's part of me that's like, well, we should let these people in because we created so much. I mean, like, if Palestinians want to come here, I'm like, I mean, we're responsible for their genocide, basically, and ethnic cleansing. So
Right.
I don't see that we have a leg to stand on to be like, we don't want these people here. And similar with, Venezuela or
Right. Yeah,
places like
I'm
that.
not like totally learned on the Venezuela thing. I know that we have, and hopefully we're gonna have Anya on this
Yes,
week, and
on
she
Friday.
can
Yeah.
right, and she can give us some insight on it.
Yeah.
I don't know all of the background on that case, or that particular situation. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like their leaders could also do a better job of advocating
Sure.
for policy. I feel like there's a lot of corruption. Um, I don't know how much
Yeah, a
we're
thousand.
responsible for. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't want to. I don't want to like take away
Hmm.
agency too and be like it's all us. It's not. And it's obviously not that simplistic. So,
Right.
I have a lot of empathy for Americans who are, you know, they're they're victims of crimes by illegal immigrants. There are people who are losing
Mhm.
their jobs to illegal immigration. So, I see it as a very fraught issue. For me, there aren't any easy answers on the
Right.
subject.
Yeah. Well, there's not. There is no easy answer. I mean,
Yeah.
if my easy answer is I'm a total isolationist, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like a shut down the border, bring all the troops home, and we will evaluate trade on a case by case basis. Like
Yeah.
I'm like a if I think we all have our own unrealistic expectations, or policies that we choose, and that is definitely mine by
I mean,
far.
that I'm not that far off from your vision of the world. I would
Yeah.
definitely be like withdraw from everything
Yeah. Yeah.
militarily. I have no problem with legalized immigration, some legalized immigration, a reasonable amount, and especially if it's like people who are seeking asylum from very, violent, deadly situations. I do
Yeah.
think we should help
Right.
some
Yeah.
people out who need it,
Mhm.
but in a reasonable way. We don't have to let
No, yeah.
everybody in.
Right. Yeah. The asylum process really got hijacked after the Syrian crisis in 2015. You can
Yeah,
map it. There's lots of studies on it and whatnot. Unfortunately, it really when Trump came to power, there were a lot of immigration attorneys. Some of them, well intentioned. Some of them maybe not so
yeah,
well intentioned, who saw the way that the asylum uh, process had really been kind of, I don't want to say hijacked, but especially in Europe and whatnot, the way that it had just worked so seamlessly to bring all of these people in. And so what you
yeah.
see, and you can track it across our records, when Trump takes office, this really like pumps up, and we go from processing about 50,000 asylum process applications a year to over a million by 2022.
Yeah.
So this was in like a 6-7 year period that this happened, because basically they saw that once you apply for asylum, then they can't kick you out, pretty much,
Yeah.
right? And now we're at the point where the asylum system has an 8-year backlog, so these people are never
Wow.
leaving. Okay,
Right.
like
Yeah.
they just never are.
Yeah.
And so Trump, unfortunately, what's going to happen is they're just going to shut the system down, and this is what I've
Yeah.
long advocated for, because we cannot handle it. And no,
Yeah.
we just can't continue to process these people and allow these people in when we're pushing, when we're at 8 years, but a 10-year backlog. I mean, what is
Yeah.
the cutoff for that? and
Yeah.
and Trump has thankfully this week they did do that. And it's going to be unfortunate too, because you're going to see a lot of people who probably do deserve to have asylum
Yeah.
who aren't going to get it. And it's going to
Yeah.
be because other people chose to game the system.
Yeah.
And you know it's sad, it's hard.
Yeah.
There's no easy answers. Everybody just wants to wave a wand and it all come out right. So yeah, the best answer though is to work as hard as we can to ensure that the U.S. is not doing anything that is destabilizing these people's home countries. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. That's my philosophy.
It's the only thing we
Um.
can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well. So speaking of that, our favorite least favorite Least favorite Taco Bell. So recently there's been some uproar because Trump suggested that Gaza should just be cleared out and all the residents sent to Jordan or Egypt. And I believe just the Egyptian president so far has made clear that he's not going to be part of that. I don't think the Jordanian president has said anything yet. But
so I didn't see Sisi say something. I did see the King of Jordan.
Maybe I got it mixed up. It's possible I reversed.
Yeah. I think Trump was supposed to be talking to Sisi today. I don't know if he did. I don't know if the Colombia thing got them to. Maybe not. I don't know. Of course, Trump was tweeting.
Yeah.
Of course he was. Right.
So everybody, all the pro-Palestine people I know are pretty upset. I think you and I have like a little bit of a more zen take on it, which is like Trump says a lot of shit.
Right.
We're not going to get freaked out till we see it.
Right. Well, obviously, very concerned about the things going on the West Bank. I'm really pissed off about those. I'm very annoyed with Trump doing this latest MK84, I think it is, the 2,000-pound bombs. Those are bunker buster bombs. Now, I do think Trump was kind of covering his ass a little bit yesterday when he tweeted out about that. He said that they had already been bought. Of course, we know that Israel doesn't buy anything.
You mean by us?
Yeah. Israel used our money to buy our bombs. But he said, that they had already been bought and paid for, and he was just fulfilling the order. My immediate answer is, why didn't you just return their money to them, and cancel that order? But he didn't.
Or return the money to us, better.
Right? Yeah.
The taxpayers who pay.
Yeah. Why don't you just say, actually, we're going to cancel that order, and we are actually going to apply this to the massive trillions of dollars in debt that you have to us. But whatever. So he didn't do that, but I think he was trying to cover his butt a little bit on that. I think it was really stupid because he had such a clean slate, right? From getting the ceasefire in before he took office. There was such a clean slate between what happened under Biden and what happened under him. And to me, he's just muddying the waters with those weapons purchases. It's very stupid. If I'm thinking of my legacy, it's very stupid, I don't like that. And then he comes out yesterday, and I don't even know. I think it was an off-the-cuff question. It definitely wasn't like a sit-down formal. He gets asked, and he kind of just says, well, I think, we're going to talk to Jordan, and we're going to talk to Egypt, and we're going to try to move these people, the people of Gaza, we're going to try to move them into these countries so we can get that whole area cleaned out. And then he says something that's very, very important, and I really want to keep an eye on this. He says there are 1.5 million people that need to be taken in by these countries. Okay. That is extremely important because the population of Gaza prior to 10/7 was 2.23 million. Okay. So where are all these people?
The 700,000.
Where are the 700 and something thousand people? Obviously we know that the death tolls are BS. But
because it stayed at 45,000 for like 8 months.
Right.
So,
and so I think that actually this whole push, obviously we all know Israel wants the whole area cleaned out, but I do worry about the other thing is they don't want Palestinians there when they start clearing that land, because there's just going to be so many bodies, right?
Oh yeah.
And they don't want anyone there to witness what is,
So I have a sort of question / comment, and I know like we're not supposed to think that as people who are very on this, sympathetic to the Palestinian side, but what are they supposed to do? Like, in a way, I'm like, maybe it would be better if they were just let into other countries. I know, we're not supposed to advocate for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and that's obviously not what I would have wanted in the first place. But the place is rubble. How are people supposed to live there? Would they maybe not be better off that way if Israel, decides to go on another bombing campaign? They won't be there. They can't just bomb Jordan and Egypt like that. Sometimes I ask myself, like, are we putting this on the Palestinians? Like, we don't want you to back down. We don't want you to lose. Maybe there's something to be said for that plan. I
Right. Yeah. And
what's
so
yeah.
I agree. And I know during, the whole time of the bombing campaigns, that's something that weighed on me all the time was like, if they want to surrender, like who are we to say
Yeah.
no? These
Yeah.
people have given up everything. I'm sitting in my nice warm home. I've never missed a single meal since 10/7. I've never once feared for my life or anything like that. Um, I so I try to really keep whatever they obviously want to do.
Yeah.
I would 100% support either
Yeah.
way. Um, I do think that there is going to have to be some kind of population shift somewhere. Probably, I was thinking more like some kind of temporary in the Negev desert,
Mm.
because it's really the only place that I can think of that to me the only place that they should go is Israel, because that's the only way you can guarantee that they'll be able to go back to Gaza, right?
There's a 0% chance Israel will let them in.
Right. There's a
0.
0%. Yeah, but there's also a pretty much a 0% chance that Israel will let them back as well.
Oh, I know.
Right.
No, I know. I know.
So I get it. And it's also the reason why I've long, advocated for a one state solution. I think
Yeah.
it's the only solution. It is what it is. Um, at the same time, I I don't know, whatever they choose to, but when you think about the number of, I think just like unexploded ammunitions is something like 30 or 40,000. So you're just gonna have to have bomb crews in there for years clearing that stuff out. It's uninhabitable. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly. Like where are people supposed to live? Like
Right.
I saw it's just absolutely tragic. I have to admit, like I I don't know if you recall 10 years ago, Israel bombed Gaza pretty badly, but it was
Mhm.
nothing. I mean, nothing compared to
Right.
this. And
Yep.
I, argued with people and I lost my best friend and all of that. And I was just like, kind of like I didn't want to think about it anymore after that. I was just like, this conflict is intractable because Israel has all the
Mhm.
power and they don't want to, but they don't want to give up the occupied territories. So they're going to keep this under an
Mhm.
occupation. And they don't want to make the people in the occupied territories in Gaza citizens of Israel because they lose their Jewish majority. So this is just intractable. And like, I can't deal with it. Like, I don't want to think about it because, and it's emotionally, complex for me because my family's there and my dad is from there and it's devastating for him. Um, so I just feel like there's no solution, and
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't see it being any better now.
Yeah, it gets to be overwhelming, right?
Yeah,
And I think about it sometimes. Obviously, I don't have any personal connection there at all. I see this more as just this kind of this dark stain on
yeah,
America and everything that I stand for. I'm extremely a patriotic. I'm like a true blue, believe in all of the founding principles kind of person. And it like rips my heart out to think that America, this place that I love, that these principles that I stand for, that we supported just this unimaginable tyranny. It's, to me, it just like goes
yeah,
against every single thing that I've ever stood for, and
yeah,
it's this dark stain on our country.
yeah.
And
And
so
now it's not even. I mean, it's been tyranny for decades, but now it's
mhm,
worse. I mean, it's a horrendous genocide.
yeah, yeah,
There
it
was a
is.
I don't know. I'm sure you saw today. There was a 2-year-old girl killed in the city I'm named after, Jenin, and
Mhm.
like I mean, if this was an Israeli child killed by Hamas, it would be on the front, splashed on the front page of everything, and the media just entirely ignores it. It's just
Right.
incredible.
And the other thing I think of, with the displacement of Gaza is, I think what it really just emboldens them in the West Bank to do what they're already
Yes,
doing.
yeah,
Um, and so I'm never going to stop advocating for um basically for America's just total and disengagement from this.
yeah.
We can't solve all the problems of the world. Obviously,
No,
I understand that, and I am extremely realistic about if whether or not the U.S. would ever um, take up arms against Israel. Obviously, I don't think that that's ever going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Disengagement is the only
Yeah.
thing that I ask for. I try to be as realistic as possible, and obviously that's not even realistic, but that's what I want, right? It's not our problem.
Absolutely.
We can't solve all the problems of the world. I genuinely believe that if the U.S. did disengage, that you would see an evening out of power.
Absolutely. They could not afford to do what they're doing without us. And
Right.
that's the outrage. And I think that's why, people say, oh, it's anti-Semitic to focus on Israel. That's not what it is. It's that we are enabling this. Like, we're not enabling we're not enabling what's happening in the Sudan. To the contrary, we're trying to stop it.
Right.
I'm not saying necessarily we're doing everything we could, but we can't do everything. And that's the issue. That's the issue, is that we don't want our government supporting this. Just get out.
Right.
I'm not saying if we were out of there, I'm not saying that like we should necessarily play a role in stopping Israel from doing whatever it does without
right.
help. But
it is like, well, the thing is, they just wouldn't be able to do any of the things. They ran out of bombs. I think it was something in like 6 or 7 days initially. So we're talking about like it was less than a week in the U.S. was we've been the sole provider, right? We've been the ones keeping them afloat. We've been the ones keeping, we've traded so much in an incalculable amount of soft power in their favor, not in ours. It's just disgusting how much the U.S. has given for this country that gives nothing back to us in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know if you guys listened to the interview with Tucker Carlson. Actually, he interviewed Kurt Mills, who is the editor. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's a weird little bit of an interview with Kurt Mills, who is the editor of American Conservative Magazine. He's a little bit of a different guy. I felt bad for him because you can tell maybe he's a little bit awkward. Tucker really kind of commandeers the conversation, but I think that Tucker is maybe 2 to 3 steps to the the right of us from us. He's not very far away from our position at all. And I genuinely believe that more and more Americans are coming to this position of we should not be supporting this country. We cannot. It is a stain on our reputation. It is going to cost us. It's going to cost our children in the future.
Well, I was shocked that I listen to podcasts while I run normally. So like it's like a 45-minute run. So I listen to the first 45 minutes. But so whatever happened the last hour, I don't know. But I thought I thought it was interesting that he blamed 9/11 to an extent on our foreign policy in the Middle East, not specifically Israel, but he said basically, and if you read Osama bin Laden's letter, he's pretty clear that his issue with the United States isn't our freedom; it's that we're in the Middle East. Right. We're in their land. We can keep intervening in their affairs, and like obviously, I would never defend killing civilians. Right. I never have, never would. Like, don't kill people. That's my policy.
Right.
But we have to understand the root causes of things if we want to stop them.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, collective punishment is wrong. It just is. It's wrong. Of course. No matter what.
It's wrong when we do it. It's wrong when Israel does it. It's wrong when Osama bin Laden does it.
Exactly. But at the same time, like people always have the reason that they do the things that they do. And it's if you take the time to listen to some of this stuff, you might come to, because this is a problem, right, that we've been facing since earlier than 2001, but really head on since 2001, and almost nothing has changed. You still see threats, quote unquote, from Al Qaeda. We still see threats to the U.S. homeland from quote unquote Islamic terrorism. And what is this rooted in? It's rooted in us invading their countries, bombing their people. I had somebody earlier talking about why won't the countries around Israel take the Palestinians in? And I just, part of it just pisses me off so much because I'm like, how many war refugees do you expect these countries to take in?
Yeah.
You have, we destroyed Libya, right? We destabilized Libya. We turned it into a modern day slave market. How many Libyan refugees did Egypt take in? Right? Millions, probably. We destroyed Syria. right? In the name of democracy. Both of them in the name of democracy. There's no
Yeah.
freaking democracy there either. All right. We send millions of refugees into Jordan, into Lebanon, into all of Europe, Turkey, everywhere. Okay. How many more freaking countries do we need to bomb in the name of democracy?
I
And
know.
war
It's
refugees do we need to create?
it's
And then
just
these arrogant sons of bitches sit there and say, well, they won't take those Palestinians in. What does this say about them? Go yourselves. All
I
right.
know.
You know, how many war refugees you complain because there are people speaking Spanish
I
in,
know.
your freaking Walmart. All right. And you've got countries taking in 10% of their total population in war refugees from that we created. All right. And you want to
I
know
mean,
why they won't take in more.
they just want them all dead. Like I have a friend ish a friend of me who's very neocon, and we fight about this stuff all the time. When we're on good terms. And like I keep on saying the reason they hate us is because we keep on killing people there. Like the lack of empathy. I'm like, do you not if I don't know, if Iran or Russia or China were invading us and bombing us and killing our people, don't you think you would hate them? Like but it's just no, they hate us for freedom, or they hate us because we're
Those are just the dumbest
it's
people on
so
the planet to me.
ridiculous. I don't
Yeah.
understand how you. I mean, the one-sidedness, the lack of any kind of. I mean, anybody should understand. If another country is bombing you, you are and killing your
Yeah.
children. You are going to hate that country.
No one who can say that they hate people because of 9/11, okay, where they flew
Yeah.
planes into buildings. Well, I'm sorry. Do you honestly think that dropping thousands of bombs is different in any
It's
way, shape, and form?
no, it's a stunning, absolutely dehumanizing. Like it's like they almost think they're not humans who like think like us, breathe
Right.
like us. It's
No,
just
that
it's
that
just
is.
crazy. It's just
And
crazy.
some of it's a coping mechanism, right? I'll never forget. Let me try to go off a little bit.
Mhm.
I listened to the podcast. I love that, This American Life. At least I used to before
You
COVID,
do.
right? I know, right? Because I'm like super like hard right for the most part, and then I like love This American Life. I love
That's
to
so
listen to
funny.
it. And so I remember them doing this interview with this Alex Jones guy, or one of the parents of the Sandy Hook,
Mm.
right? And he had been harassed by some of Alex Jones's listeners, and he really kind of like took it like he wanted to know why these people thought this was fake, right? And so one of the things that he discovered going in was that a lot of the people who didn't believe in that Sandy Hook was real, one of the reasons why was because they just couldn't fathom it. Like they could not
Mm.
conceptualize
Yeah.
their children being murdered, which I totally understand. My daughter was
Yeah.
really little when that happened, and it was like devastating for me.
Yeah.
She had just been born. It was like, and so when he said that, it kind of like clicked to me, and I see that all the time, right?
Yeah.
There is this almost like dehumanization, but I genuinely think it's because these people cannot conceptualize it, and it's
Yeah.
just significantly easier for them to dismiss it
blame.
like
Yeah.
it's like nothing,
Yeah, I actually took a course in college called Psychology and the Law or something, and I read
Mhm.
a journal piece about victim blaming. And it's like a psychological defense mechanism because
Mhm.
it's so hard for you to think this could happen to you or your child or, whatever, that you
Mhm.
want to think like these people clearly did something wrong for this to
Right.
happen to them. Because you have to sort of otherize them. Otherwise, it's just too difficult. And I kind of get that because, and I think I talked about on the last episode or the one before, like, how weird and difficult it's been to have my baby like during all of this, and while I'm
Mhm.
seeing pictures of dead babies and just
Yeah.
thinking like this could be him if he had had the misfortune of being born in another place. Like,
Mhm.
I thought we valued children's lives. I thought we would all stop at anything to make sure children don't get killed. And then to see people talking about like the devil's spawn, we both were looking at that thread. And the way people, there are no innocents in Gaza, even the children are just going to grow up to be murderers, whatever. And I guess, the some of the only way I can maybe have some kind of empathy or understanding for the mentality of people who talk like that is like maybe it's just too difficult for them to actually really
Right.
believe and understand that these are people, these are innocent people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, obviously, the other option is that these people they just black hearts, evil, genuinely evil.
Yeah.
which I don't dismiss. I do believe in evil. I do believe in good and evil, and I do believe that there are evil people in this world, and unfortunately, some of them walk among us, live
Yeah.
among us. They're not just in faraway lands. They are, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
think what we've seen after, in the celebration of just the mass carnage in Gaza and around the world, is that there are a lot of Americans who seem to really take pleasure, not just
Yeah.
kind of are dismissive, but they
Yeah.
genuinely seem to take pleasure, which is really
Yeah.
sick,
It's
right?
very sick. Anybody who takes pleasure in the death of children is we're
Right,
very sick,
right.
or innocent people. Yeah.
Yeah, innocent people, innocent, women and men,
Yes. Yeah.
I never, we during the bombing campaigns, we prayed for Gaza every night in my house. And one day, I used to pray for the women and children, and then my
Mhm.
daughter one day, she says, how come you don't ever pray for the dads? And I felt like such
Aw,
a jerk. I
that's so
know.
sweet.
I
No,
know, and I felt like so bad, like why, because I'm not praying for these men, and so
well,
we changed
it's
our prayer, okay, but
yeah. No, it's just I think we're like it's almost certain
mhm.
that the women and children are all innocent. So it's I mean there may be a
Right.
few women who are involved in but very very few.
Right,
So
right. Yeah, but
um
the overwhelming majority of men as well. The dads are out there, God bless them. Just
yep.
trying to keep their family safe. So,
Yep.
you know, but
Anyway,
it's
well,
hard stuff, and it's weird stuff with Trump. Although I will say, at least with Trump, it's mildly entertaining. Okay, I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie.
yeah. With Biden, it was just boring, but
It was just
uh,
like just our president just getting railroaded every day, all the time. So embarrassing. At least with Trump, it's like I got a little bit of I told my sister, I was like, could everybody just zip their pants back up? All right, we get it. Everybody is blessed. Can we just talk normal again? But it's
well,
somewhat entertaining.
yeah. Well, yeah, I have to go because I hear that
Yeah,
my baby is falling apart and needs to go to bed.
yeah,
Needs
yeah,
my help. So,
yeah. So, all
but
right, guys,
this
thank
was
you.
fun.
Yes, talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.